Alright, welcome back to Let's Play Eden Visual Novel. So where we left off, Maya left off to board the last colony ship. So, well, little normal routine for Rio and Shion, and well, she had some bit of health conditions here and there, but yeah, let's continue reading. When I knocked and opened the door, she was already awake. She sat upright and gazed aimlessly with a dazed look in her eyes.
おはよう、シオン。
I walked up to her bedside with a tray which contained breakfast for two.
おはようございます。
Shion gave a tidy nod, her eyes drowsy.
りょう、回れ右。
は、なぜだ。
Was she that out of it? I looked at her doubtfully as she shook her head side to side. Huh. Interesting.
今日は起きるの。朝食もちゃんと居間で食べる。持ってきてもらったのにごめん。
シオン、無理をしなくていいんだ。
今日は大事な日だから起きる。
何よりも大事なのは、
私の体、わかってる。でも、ごめん。今日起きるために体力を温存してきたの。だから平気。
Are you sure about that?
わかった。
When it came down to it, I couldn't fight her. Who could look into those determined eyes and say no? They were different from the innocent eyes of a mere child. Those eyes possessed both honesty and a strength which had never been sullied despite the many, many years behind them.
りょう？
ああ、わかってる。起きるなとはもう言わない。
そうじゃなくて、私、着替えたいの。
悪い。
I turned around and headed for the door. It felt to me as though Shion had changed in some way since Maya left. Before, she had mentioned wanting to get in the bath together, but lately, it was common for her to get oddly embarrassed. I was sure it was a change for the better.
ごちそうさま。
The breakfast menu was modest as always, consisting of bread, egg salad, and vegetable soup. Mmm, delicious. However, Shion took only a small sip of the soup.
もう少し食わないと体が持たないぞ。
残してごめん。でも、今さら食事量を増やしても大して結果は変わらない。
I wanted to ask her what result she meant, but held my tongue. Since Shion would, without a doubt, answer point blank,
残りは量が食べて。
I nodded silently and pulled her leftovers over to me. Our food situation wasn't so well off that we could throw any away.
量、食べ終わったらでいいから。
外に行きたいのか。
この目で見たいの。
どうせここからじゃ何も見えないぞ。
わかってる。だけどベッドの上でのんびりその時を待つのは無責任すぎると思うから。
そうか。
I gobbled down Shion's leftover bread in one bite.
だってこれが最後なんだもの。
The end, huh? 9:51. 9 hours, 51 minutes and 41 seconds a.m. 9:51 a.m. In other words for that. I checked the digital display of the military-issued wristwatch I hadn't worn in some time. This watch, created with a stress on precision and durability, could endure use even on the battlefield. It had never failed me and continued to tick away accurately.
ちょうどいい時間だな。
I whispered to myself, then looked at Shion as she slowly made her way forward. It hardly showed on her face, but I sensed she was excited to some extent.
シオン、疲れてないか？
最近動物や虫が少なくなった気がする。
よく気づいたな。
It happened all the time, so it didn't bother me that my question had been completely ignored, but still. Oh boy. She perceived the changes on the mountain very well for someone who was almost always bedridden.
明らかに鳥や虫の声は減っているな。ただ、死んでるわけじゃなさそうだ。
移動してるの？
多分な。何か危機を感じているのかもしれない。
どこへ逃げてもそんなに変わらないと思う。
それも分かっているのかもな。だが無駄だと分かっていても最後まであがいてしまうのが生き物の性だろ
う。
動物は無駄とか有益とか考えない。生きることに夢中なだけ。
夢中なのは人類も同じだな。
A cold wind blew by us. Shion stopped in place and looked beyond the hill.
夢中になって多くの犠牲も払って、その最後の結果が。
もうすぐだな。
Very soon, the final ship would take off into space. Upon it rode the very last people left on this planet and all their hopes and dreams as they headed towards the future.
マヤもちゃんと乗ってるかな？
あいつはあれで抜け目がない。取り残されるようなことはないだろ
う。人類は生まれ育った星を出てどこへ向かうと思う？
Makes me wonder where the colony ships are heading to.
え？
My train of thought was halted by her unexpected question.
それは人工的な生活空間を確保して同時に居住可能な惑星と新たなエネルギーを求めての旅を。
そうじゃない。
Shion shook her head with a thin smile.
人はみんな旅をする。それは当たり前のこと。 何千年も何万年も前から旅を繰り返してどこかにたどり着き、そこで暮らし、また旅立って、今度は少しスケールが違うだけ。準備にかけた時間の長さとカバンに詰め込んだパンの量が多いだけ。この星での長い旅の果てには滅びが待ってた。今度はどうなるのかな。
どんな運命が待っていようと、人間はどこかへ向かうことをやめやしない。行き止まりにぶつかっても、かつて君がそうしたように壁を壊してでも新しい道を作り出す。
壊れた壁の瓦礫の上には多くの死が横たわることになる。
記憶は受け継がれていくんだ。
I too looked into the distance beyond the hill, at the mountains which stayed the same year-round. Before long, I was sure this familiar scenery too would begin to change. How I wished I was wrong. Are you sure? How I wished I was wrong about what?
りょう、
Like it's not... I mean, the mountains look perfect to me.
ん？
ここにいるのがあなたでよかった。
Shion smiled sweetly and then took my hand. I immediately squeezed back and returned a smile of my own. Lately, I found that I've been able to smile again. It was because she was smiling and happy. Whenever I smiled, she seemed delighted too.
時間は？
おっと。
What time is it? I quickly looked down at my wristwatch. 9:58 a.m. or 9 hours 58 minutes and 11 seconds a.m. There were 2 minutes to go.
さあ、始まるな。
この星の空に最後の奇跡が刻まれる。
We both fell silent. We kept quiet and looked up at the sky. Though the spaceport was quite far and we probably couldn't make anything out from here, I was glad all the same. The sky was so blue, and even that ominous red star which glistened through the gaps in the white clouds seemed beautiful. The digital display of the watch read 10 a.m. The appointed hour. There was a rumble from far, far away. It was like a baby's first cry and a scream in the throes of death all at once. An ear-splitting reverberation with such force that it contended with all the celestial bodies in the distant sky ahead. I had no doubt it was an auditory illusion, but I could hear that vigorous echo plain as day, and I was sure Shion could hear it too. At some point, Shion had clutched onto Elika's lock of hair. With it tightly gripped in one hand, she looked up at the sky and stretched her other hand towards the heavens.
行っちゃえ。
She whispered affectionately. She turned to the sky with a smile on her face and waved her hand. Maybe, just maybe, she could see those travelers as they set out on their journey. Something whiffed past my eyes. When I followed it, I saw feathers fluttering and dancing against the orange-dyed scenery. Those dark-colored wings had a vivid blue pattern printed upon them. It was a swallowtail butterfly. I was seated on the grass. Shion, who was resting her head on my shoulder, let out a small murmur. Then she opened her eyes.
ジョー、
ああ、アゲハだ。
アゲハチョウ、初めて見た。
そうか。この山じゃ珍しくないんだが。
ここには本当にたくさんの初めてがある。
Shion got up from my shoulder and was staring vacantly at the butterfly.
ねえ、りょう。
ん？
私、寝てた？
ああ、よく寝てた。
We watched as the final ship ascended to space, and then, like someone had flipped a switch, she instantly fell asleep.
起こそうかと思ったけど、あまりに気持ちよさそうに寝てたからな。
うん、ありがとう。
もう十分眠ったか。
今はすごくいい気持ち。どこまでも心が澄んでるみたい。
そうか。
I nodded and held the lock of Elika's hair out to her.
風で飛ばされないように預かってた。まあ、しっかり握ってたから、そのままでも大丈夫だっただろうが。
ありがとう。
Shion took the lock and gazed at it lovingly.
エリカ、私の仕事は終わった。何もできなかった私をエリカが救ってくれて。
When Shion smiled, her face looked astonishingly similar to Elika's.
リョウがいたから最後の船をこんなにも穏やかな気持ちで見送れた。私は幸せ。
Her whisper was like a song, and as if drawn to that song, the swallowtail landed on her hand.
リョウ、
Shion spoke, fascinated by its wings.
とうとう私たちは世界に二人きりになった。
ああ、ここは他にはもう誰もいない世界だ。
私にはもうリョウしかいない。
Shion sent the swallowtail away with a gentle wave of her hand. The black-winged butterfly fluttered away, carried by the wind.
だけどこれが私の望んだ世界。亮と二人の静かで穏やかな世界。
俺の望みもシオンと同じだ。
No further words were necessary. Shion sprung up at me, and I caught her in my arms. I held her small head against my chest. After fully feeling her warmth, I looked down and saw her eyes welling with tears. The sight felt like a needle through my heart.
亮、
Shion touched my cheek, as if trying to calm me down.
亮、
Set amidst this now uninhabited world's sunset, our lips met ever so softly. Ah.
なすべきことは
Needed to be done
あとは幕が
for curtain to drop.
彼女が演じた舞台とは違い、圧倒的なまでの力がすべて最後の船を見送ったあの日のそれから3
So she was in a coma for 3 days ever since that final ship took off. The rhythmic sleep breathing I had grown accustomed to changed slightly. I looked up from the paperback I had been reading and shifted my attention to the girl on the bed. Her eyelids slowly lifted, and those crystal clear eyes came into view.
何日経ったの？
With her eyes still pointed at the ceiling, Shion asked me in an unambiguous tone.
3日後のもうすぐ正午になるところだ。
そう。
With that whisper, she suddenly tried to sit upright. It was rash to do that immediately following 3 days of sleep.
もう少し横になってろ。無理をする必要なんてないだろう。それより腹は減ってないか？喉は？
大丈夫。起きたいの。
When she insisted this adamantly, I couldn't fight her. Of course, if she wasn't at least this pushy, then she probably wouldn't have been fit to be the project's leader. Using me as support, she slowly picked herself up.
亮？
なんだ
3日間ずっとそこにいたの？
まさか。
I shook my head and smiled wryly.
畑や鶏の世話もあるし、飯も食わなきゃいけないからな。
それ以外の時間はずっとそこにいたのね。
まあな。
Since all she was doing was sleeping, Her breathing was calm, and she didn't seem to have a fever. I hadn't been too concerned. Still, I couldn't let my guard down. Her condition could change at any time.
座って本を読んでいただけだ。まあ、多少退屈だったかな。
そう。
For some reason, Shion blushed and cast her eyes downward.
ずっとそこで見てたの？
いや、ずっと見てたわけじゃない。たまに様子を確かめてただけだ。
女の子の寝顔を眺めるなんてよくない。
シオン、どこかおかしくないか？
亮はちっとも変わってない。
3日やそこらで何が変わるんだ？
もういい。外へ行く。
外？またか？
I yelled without meaning to. Shion frowned at my raised voice, but the only one it seemed to befuddle was me.
3日も横になってたんだぞ。足だって泣いてるだろ
おぶってくれなんて言わない。ちょっと横を支えてくれればいいから。
う。でもな。
明日になったら歩けなくなってるかもしれない。
Her sharp voice and dagger-like glare was quite uncomfortable. Common sense and half-hearted sympathy were meaningless before her ironclad will.
どこへ行きたい？
湖が見たい。
Alright. We'll end it here for now. I think we're very almost we'll continue more of this later. So hope you guys enjoy this. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.